Hello, my name is Grace Hawley. I am a clinical psychology doctoral student in the School of Graduate Psychology at Pacific University. My presentation will be looking at the role of self-efficacy and attitudes toward dating violence and IPV with women. Faculty and community advisors that contributed to this project are Drs. Paul Michael, Elspeth Martindale, and Shahana Koslowski. Intimate partner violence or dating violence, particularly among college students, has increasingly become an area of grave concern, and colleges have recently begun implementing programs that reduce an individual's likelihood of becoming a victim of intimate partner or dating violence. Beaulieu, Dutton, McQuiller-Williams, and Porter report that younger adults between ages 18 to 24 experience the highest rates of IPV, and that college students are at a greater risk for some types of IPV, so as in sexual assault, compared to same-age non-college peers. As a result of increased IPV and sexual assault on college campuses, there has been an increase in healthy relationship programs, which are funded by the federal government and its agencies to provide education on healthy relationships to a range of target populations. And in an effort to create and implement healthy relationship programs, risk factors for dating violence victimization were identified. Multiple studies found that a lack of general self-efficacy was associated with increased rates of IPV, dating violence, and sexual assault victimization and perpetration. Further, researchers have concluded that attitudes toward dating and intimate partner violence are also a risk factor for IPV, dating violence, and sexual assault victimization and perpetration. Intimate partner violence, or IPV, has historically been known as domestic violence and is defined as any physical, sexual, or psychological harm by a current or former intimate partner or spouse. While initially domestic violence was viewed as two members of the opposite sex in a heterosexual marriage who are involved in a crime of abuse, more recent studies have expanded that definition to include any members of a romantic relationship. Further, societal views surrounding the definition of domestic violence have expanded to include abuse that exists in any type of intimate relationship, regardless of gender preference, marital status, or sexual orientation. As a result of this, the term intimate partner violence was introduced to represent a more comprehensive understanding of violence in relationships. Dating violence or relationship violence is a form of intimate partner violence, or IPV, that occurs among adolescents and young adults and can include physical violence, sexual violence, threats of violence, and psychological or emotional violence. Domestic violence, or IPV, typically occurs when couples reside in the same household. However, the types and cycles of abuse are the same for both domestic and dating violence. Sexual assault on college campuses has clearly become a public health issue. Sexual assault rates, specifically on college campuses, have drastically increased throughout the years. The Bureau of Justice Statistics, or the BGS, the National Center for Education Statistics, and the American Institutes for Research have reported that while the number of reported crimes has dropped across college campuses nationwide, the number of sexual assaults has significantly increased. Specifically, rates of college sexual assaults have jumped from about 4,000 in 2012 to 5,000 in 2013. A government report found that the number of sex crimes reported on U.S. colleges soared by 50% over the course of a decade, even as total campus crime continued to decrease. Intimate partner violence, or IPV, including sexual assault, is pervasive and has increasingly garnered attention, particularly on college campuses. In a 2016 study examining dating violence on college campuses, Anna Suri reported that 32% of college students will experience at least one occurrence of sexual assault, dating violence, and/or stalking. Moreover, research has consistently demonstrated that anywhere between 20 and 30% of college-age dating couples experience at least one form of dating violence. And finally, it is estimated that anywhere between 3 and 20% of college-age dating couples experience at least one act of sexual aggression each year. GS, so the Bureau of Justice Statistics, conducted a study with 9 colleges and universities and found that an average of 21% of undergraduate female students reported an experience of sexual assault since entering college. Non-heterosexual female students had slightly higher rates of reported sexual assault than heterosexual females, and the majority of the reported rapes and instances of sexual assault were done by individuals the victim knew. The study also found that 6.4% of college women participating in the study reported being victims of IPV. And while the studies cited in this presentation address both female and male sexual assault victims, there is a broader gap in the research on sexual assault with regard to male victims. Similar to the wide range of female sexual assault rates on college campuses, there are varying rates for male victims of sexual assaults. However, it is estimated that between 12 to 16% of men experience some form of sexual assault while in college. Researchers believe that these rates may actually be higher, but because of factors such as societal stigma and acceptable gender roles and norms, many male victims of sexual assault may feel discouraged and choose to stay silent and let the incident go unreported. Unfortunately, many instances of sexual assault on college campuses are unreported. Although researchers believe college students, particularly women, now feel more at ease and comfortable disclosing reports of sexual assault, students who are victimized by those they know may be less likely to report the incident. A 2016 BGS study found that the vast majority of incidents involving rape of college students go unreported. Only 7% of rape victims reported the incident to an official. Furthermore, the majority of incidents of rape and sexual assault on college campuses frequently involve alcohol and/or drug consumption, which could be another potential reason instances of sexual assault on college campuses may go un or underreported. Dating violence on college campuses has continued to rise, and although there has been an increase in prevention programs on college campuses, there remains a limited number of preventative resources offered to college students. There is some research to suggest that interventions targeting sexual assault are effective at increasing relationship self-efficacy. Basile et al. Evaluated the effectiveness of the intervention and found evidence that participation in bringing in the bystander intervention program increases general self-efficacy and intention to engage in bystanding. Further, empowerment-based approaches that focus on increasing participant self-efficacy to identify and reduce exposure to risky situations and people through intensive skills training have greater research and theoretical support than approaches focused primarily on physical self-defense training. Similarly, Adler, Bader, Kerpelman, Schramm, Higginbotham, and Polk evaluated the effectiveness of Love You To relationship smarts using a treatment or training intervention in comparison group design. The results indicated a significant increase in knowledge about relationships and awareness of healthy, unhealthy relationship patterns in the treatment group, but no such increase in the control group. Attitudes toward dating violence have also been targeted in prevention programs on college campuses. One such violence intervention program that is currently in use in the United States on college and university campuses is the social norms approach. The central tenet of this approach is the idea that norms reflected in one's attitudes and behaviors are a direct reflection of the collective norms. As such, interventions typically include the assessment of attitudes and/or behaviors in the community of interest, and then disseminating the results obtained to the community. It has been suggested that providing accurate data to combat misperceptions of attitudes within the community of interest can reduce or even eliminate misperceptions. The concept of self-efficacy is integrated throughout the research available on IPV and dating violence and has been found to be associated with various relationship variables. For instance, low levels of self-efficacy have been associated with an increased risk of intimate partner violence. Additionally, self-efficacy can serve as a protective factor. Research has found evidence that higher levels of self-efficacy can lead to reduced consequences and distress among individuals victimized by an intimate partner. Self-efficacy can also predict the likelihood of the victim reporting violence to authorities. Research indicates that higher levels of self-efficacy may lead to an increased chance of outreach and disclosure on the part of the victim. For instance, Sabina and Ho clarify that higher levels of self-efficacy increase the likelihood of reporting incidents to police as well as informal disclosure. Previous research has found that relationship self-efficacy can moderate the decision whether to remain in or leave a situationally violent intimate partnership. Interestingly, intimate partners who are high in relationship self-efficacy, or RSE, may make the decision to stay in relationships involving situational IPV because they may believe their ability to resolve conflict will help them prevent future IPV. It then follows that victims of situational IPV who have higher levels of RSE may expect to prevent or minimize future conflicts. In contrast, victims who are low in RSE may expect to be unable to prevent or minimize future conflicts and corresponding IPV, and thus be more likely to leave their relationships. In other words, situational IPV may be more strongly associated with relationship dissolution among intimates who have lower versus higher levels of RSE. Schwartz and Runts examined the relationship between dating violence and self-efficacy among other variables in a sample of 306 high school and college students. In opposition to the conclusions on IPV and RSE, Schwartz and Runts found that lower dating self-efficacy was related to experiencing all three forms of dating violence victimization, and lower physical self-efficacy was related to sexual victimization for young women in high school. Furthermore, greater frequency of psychological and sexual victimization, but not physical victimization or any type of aggression, was associated with lower levels of RSE. Although the reported number of incidents of violence within intimate relationships continues to rise, and an increasing number of studies are linking attitudes that exist toward violence within intimate relationships, there are few studies that specifically target college students. Despite this, the limited research that is available on college students and dating violence does indicate a strong relationship between attitudes towards dating violence and dating violence perpetration and victimization. Deal and Wampler asked a sample of college students to rate the appropriateness of specific dating violence behaviors on a widely utilized measure of IPV, and found that accepting attitudes towards violence within romantic relationships were related to violence in the most recent or current relationship. Similarly, Kate, Hinton, Koval, Christopher, and Lloyd asked college students to complete 6 semantic differential items related to the statement, how good it felt to slap a partner, and also found a relationship between attitudes towards IPV and dating violence and its occurrence. Previous violence, both within intimate relationships as well as violence towards others, so for example, siblings, friends, and classmates, has also been linked to an increase in violent attitudes towards dating and intimate partner violence. For instance, Bookwalla, Freeze, Smith, and Ryan concluded that individuals who have experienced aggression and violence in previous dating relationships tend to hold more positive and accepting views towards dating violence than individuals who did not endorse previous violence in their intimate relationships. So, a few summary points for this presentation is that dating or intimate partner violence, particularly sexual assault, is pervasive on college campuses. As a result, interventions aimed at targeting dating violence on college campuses has recently become a top priority. Research is limited with populations including college students. However, the literature has consistently indicated that lower levels of romantic relationship self-efficacy, in addition to accepting attitudes towards dating violence, are risk factors for the perpetration and victimization of dating violence and IPV. Thank you for your time.